One of the greatest principles of the web is that you can link to anything. You can link to websites that are already out there. You could link to web pages that you create later that are going to go along with your website. You can link to images, you can link to videos, you can link to so many different things. For this session, we're going to look at creating what's called the anchor tag, which is essentially just a link. To start, I've got my basic HTML skeleton here. I'm going to go to File, Save As, and make sure I save a copy of this to a place that I'm familiar with. So I'm going to actually create a folder called Links. And I'll save this as index.html to that links folder. As long as the folder name makes sense to you, it's fine. When you save as, you'll notice that everything sort of color codes itself. I've got a title here that says Links Demo. And ideally, I would like to make a link to perhaps Google. So let's just say that I type Google here. And ultimately, I'd like for my end users to be able to click on the word Google in the browser and have it go to Google's website. To do that, we put what's called the anchor tag on it. It actually just abbreviated with an A for anchor. Now for the first time, we're going to see a tag here that has something called an attribute. An attribute is essentially an extension to a tag. Think of it as a property. We can have an anchor tag which tells this to be a link, but we haven't really told it what to link to. And to do that, we'll need to add in an attribute. The attribute is href equals, then in quotes, the full web address that you'd like to go to. Makes this piece of code a little bit lengthier. So even though the tag itself is called the anchor tag, which is marked with an A, it's almost always A space href. Href stands for hypertext reference or hyperreference. Essentially, it's telling our link, our clickable object here, which is between the anchor tags, it's telling that where to go when you click it. So hyperreference or hypertext reference means go to, and then we've got the address in here. There are essentially two main types of links. There's internal links and external links. Internal links are going to be links to things that you've created, typically that are going to be in your folder or in your possession. That's called an internal link. An external link means it's going to link to something that's already on the web. It's not really yours, you probably don't retain ownership of that, but this is something that's already out there. And obviously I don't own Google, I wish I did, but I can link directly to Google's website. The most important part of an external link that you have to understand is external links always start with http:// without the http:// at the beginning. The browsers don't understand that you're going out to the web. This is what tells the browsers we're going to go out to the internet and look for this thing called google.com. There's always some question as to whether or not you need the www. In most cases you don't. Most web servers are set up now so that you don't have to have www in front of it anymore, but it doesn't hurt anything. So you can leave it there or not. So setting up an external link is actually fairly simple. Internal links are set up primarily the same way. Assuming that you've got more than one file nearby, you can link to your file name. So let's say that we've got another page on our website called about.html. You could link to your about page, about.html, like this. Maybe we've got more than one link. Maybe we've got an about page and then we've got another page. So I'm going to go ahead and write a link to several of these here. Let's say I've got about, products, and contact. Now at this point we haven't really created any of these other pages, but we can go ahead and create the links to them now so that whenever we do create those pages, the links will all be there. So we have 3 links to 3 HTML files that will be saved along with this index, along with this file that we're working on. They'll be saved together in a folder, and the browser will interpret these as links to those files. Now if we save this as is, and we take a look at this in a browser, just like all other HTML, if you don't put line breaks between them, it does of course put them all on one line. And that's kind of to be expected, but remember that if you do want them to be separated, you do need to have line breaks. So we could obviously go out here to the end of each line and add in a line break, like so. I'm going to add in another line break or two here, and I'm going to put a link back to Google. This time I'm going to do a couple of things differently. This time I'm going to write out in sentence form, my favorite search engine is Google. Now in this case, I only want the word Google to be my link. I don't want my favorite search engine is to be a link. I only want to be able to click on the word Google. And I don't want the period to be included with that either. Now in this case, it's the same concept. We're going to wrap our anchor tag around the word Google and only the word Google. So I could do it like so. Remembering that HTTP:// is so important. Oops. Okay, so in this case, I've got one sentence. You could put all of this on one line. I couldn't really fit everything on one line in this view, so I went ahead and hit enter. But my favorite search engine is Google. If I save this and go take a look at that in my favorite browser and refresh it, I see all these are on their own line at this point because I put the line break in. I've got an extra line break here, and then I see my favorite search engine is Google. And Google is highlighted in with blue, and it's underlined. Actually, it's purple because I've already been there once today. Links are automatically formatted in our browser as having the blue color and underlined. Once they've been visited, then they turn kind of a purple color. We'll look at it later on how we can change the formatting of our links. When I click on the word Google, hopefully it takes me straight to Google's website, and it does. So it looks like that the link is working correctly. Now, I said we're going to do a couple of things different this time. The first thing we did different is we actually put text sort of around our anchor tag, or maybe even, you could say it the other way around. You embedded the anchor tag kind of in the middle of a sentence. When you're dealing with an external link, a link that is not yours, a link that is already out there on the web, it's oftentimes a common courtesy to add in another attribute. And this attribute is called target equals quote underscore blank, B-L-A-N-K. Let me push that down here on the next line so we can at least see that in one view better. Target equals underscore blank. It goes inside of the opening anchor tag. You see how the anchor tag opens with this bracket and closes with this bracket. Attributes in general go in the opening tag only. You never really have an attribute in the closing tag. So we have two attributes. We have href equals and the address, and then we have target equals underscore blank. This will change the way that it behaves in our browser just a bit. If I go back to my browser and refresh it, and now if I click Google, you'll see that it opens up a new tab. It opens up a new tab. And when I'm done with this, if I decide that I don't want this anymore, I can close it, and our website is still open. Now we do this with external links only. We don't do this with internal links, but we do it for a few reasons. Number one, we don't want to direct people away from our site. You spend a lot of time and effort creating your site. Why on earth would you want to send people away to another site? By doing this, it allows them to have access to another website, maybe a link that you're recommending, all the while keeping them on your site. You're still open in a tab back there. So by opening up a brand new tab, you're not leaving your site. You're just temporarily redirecting them. And that's a good thing. This is also considered good etiquette, good manners for sites that are not yours. Let's say that I'm a big fan of Google and I go out and create my own website about a fan site, if you will. So if I go make a site that talks about Google and it looks like Google and it uses their colors and backgrounds or lack thereof, I guess. But let's say that I make a page that looks very, very similar to Google. Google could be pretty upset by that. They could say, you know what, you're sort of ripping off our style, you look a lot like us, and even though you're linking to us, which is nice, we like that you're giving us traffic, we don't like the fact that it's not opening in its own tab. It may confuse people. So if someone is on your Google-ish site, and all of a sudden they're on the real Google site, they may not be able to distinguish that they're on a different site. So it's good manners. Google appreciates the fact that you're linking to them, and they also appreciate that you do it on a new tab. That way there's really no confusion as to whether or not you're on your site, which may not be as well done as they would like, or their own site. So it's good manners. It's good etiquette to do that. In addition to linking to websites that are external to our files, or internal websites which are linked to our folder or to our disk somewhere, you can also link to other file types. You could link directly to a JPEG. You could link to a PDF file, maybe even an audio file like an MP3 or a WAV. You can link to many different file formats, but generally it needs to be something a browser can open. If you've got the Adobe Acrobat Reader, PDF is permissible, obviously. GIFs, JPEGs, PNGs, all sorts of graphics are nice. But otherwise, you want to try to keep linking to HTML files or other web-based files. So the anchor tag is what gets that done. One last point here, I do want to point out that there is such thing as a link tag. A lot of people always ask, well, why is this A for anchor? Why doesn't it just say link? Because it seems kind of silly that we would have this. There is such thing as a link tag, but it doesn't do links like this. It's a way for us to link to files, typically technical files, not visual files, that we might need to help our site function better. The best example that we're going to see coming up here soon is we might link to a CSS file, which will help us. It'll help our website function so that it'll look the way that we want it to look, but it'll help us with layout and some of the technical aspects. A link tag is not really a link to another website. It's a link to another file that's necessary. So don't get confused by that. We certainly do not need a link tag just yet. The A anchor tag, href, is what we need to do the majority of that.